Hello viewers, this is Numero TV and you're watching Perspectives with me, Mariam Olubode. A political ghost from Nigeria's past is stirring again. And this time, the stakes are high. Human rights lawyer Femi Falana has threatened legal action against former military ruler Ibrahim Babangida, decades after the famous annulment of the June 12, 1993 presidential election. The twist? Babangida himself has now admitted that Moshood Abiola won the election. An election he cancelled, plunging Nigeria into years of political turmoil. Falana sees this as a long overdue opportunity for justice. The lawyer, who was imprisoned during Babangida's regime for protesting the annulment, now argues that his detention and that of many others was unjust and malicious. This case could become one of Nigeria's most significant legal battles, testing whether the country is finally ready to hold a former military ruler accountable. In a move that is drawing sharp criticism, the United States has frozen nearly all foreign aid, including critical humanitarian assistance to Sudan. Aid organizations warn that this decision will have dire consequences for millions of Sudanese civilians already teetering on the brink of famine. What is the price of the American dream? According to President Donald Trump, it is $5 million. That is the price tag he's putting on the new gold card visa, a fast-track ticket to U.S. residency, work rights, and eventually citizenship. No waiting list, no job creation requirement, just cash on the table. Yes, you heard that right. The world's wealthiest can now buy their way into America. And just like that, U.S. immigration policy shifts from give me you're tired, you're poor, to show me your bank balance. All of this in Malcolm but first the news headlines. Aid cuts to Sudan. Israel and Hamas agree on new exchange. Trump says U.S. will sell $5 million gold card to wealthy foreigners. Scientists have identified a new coronavirus in bats, but it's not a public health threat. 6 babies die of hypothermia in Gaza. Now to the news and details. Falana threatens legal action against Babangida. For years, Babangida dodged direct answers about June 12, hiding behind vague excuses of national security concerns. Now, in his new autobiography, A Journey in Surface, he has admitted what Nigerians have always known: Abiola won. Speaking to the media, Falana wasted no time responding. Babangida has now admitted there was no basis for my prosecution. If Abiola won, then I was detained unjustly. That is malicious prosecution, and we're exploring legal action. The June 12 annulment remains one of Nigeria's darkest political betrayals. The election was widely regarded as the first and fairest in the country's history, yet Babangida, wielding absolute military power, threw the results out, denying Nigerians their chosen leader. His action triggered mass protest, a brutal crackdown, and the eventual imprisonment of Abiola himself. Abiola died in military detention in 1998, never taking the office he was elected to. For decades, Babangida has evaded accountability, but now his own words might finally come back to haunt him. Falana's legal threat is not just about the annulled election. It is about holding Babangida responsible for a regime notorious for human rights abuses. One of the most striking examples, the execution of General Moman Vatsa. Vatsa, a respected military officer, was accused of plotting a coup against Babangida in 1985. He was tried, convicted, and executed. But Falana argues that his trial was a sham. Vatsa was convicted under a law that was passed after he had already been arrested. That is not justice. That is murder, Falana said. But yes, these cases have been buried under layers of impunity. Nigeria has never prosecuted a former military ruler for human rights violations. But if Falana moves forward, this case could become the first real attempt at holding a former dictator accountable. So far, Babangida has remained silent. The 83-year-old former general, once one of Nigeria's most powerful men, has spent the last 2 decades carefully managing his public image. He speaks ready. And when he does, he chooses his words carefully, always deflecting blame, always rewriting history. But this time, his own admission might leave him with no escape. Political reactions have been mixed. Among pro-democracy activists, there is strong support for Falana's move. If Babangida can now see Abiola won, then justice must follow. The lies of the past cannot stand, one activist in Lagos told reporters. However, some argue that reopening the wounds of the past is unnecessary. Babangida's supporters claim that the legal pursuit of a former head of state could destabilize Nigeria's already fragile political landscape. Others question whether the country's legal system is even strong enough to handle a case of this magnitude. But if Falana moves forward, Nigeria will be entering uncharted territory. The country has never successfully prosecuted a former leader for past crimes. Military abuses have often been swept under the rug, protected by weak institutions and political reluctance. But Falana is not known for backing down. For him, this is not just a legal lawsuit. It is about writing Nigeria's history with truth and justice. If Babangida can admit that June 12 was stolen, then Nigeria must decide. Would this be the moment the country finally holds a former dictator accountable, or will Babangida once again slip away untouched? One thing is certain, this case will test Nigeria's commitment to justice like never before. People will starve because of US aid cuts to Sudan. Since April 2023, Sudan has been engulfed in a brutal civil war between the Sudanese Armed Forces (SAF) and the Rapid Support Forces (RSF). The conflict has led to the displacement of over 13 million people and has claimed more than 24,000 lives. And in quotes, civilians. The humanitarian situation is dire. Displacement, over 13 million individuals have been forced from their homes, seeking refuge within Sudan and in neighboring countries. Food insecurity. Nearly 25 million people, half of Sudan's population, are in urgent need of food and medical assistance. Healthcare collapse. Approximately 70 to 80% of hospitals in conflict-affected areas are non-functional, leaving millions without access to medical care. The recent US decision to halt foreign aid, as reported by the Associated Press, has exacerbated the crisis. This freeze affects billions of dollars in US-funded projects globally, including essential health initiatives and food programs in Sudan. In Sudan, the immediate effects are devastating. Closure of soup kitchens. Approximately 80% of emergency food kitchens, primarily funded by US aid, are shut down, leaving countless individuals without reliable food sources. Also, healthcare disruptions. Hospitals like Al Noor in Omdurman, which relied on support from these kitchens to feed patients, are now struggling to provide even basic meals. The suspension of aid extends beyond Sudan. The Norwegian Refugee Council, NRC, has announced the suspension of some humanitarian work across nearly 20 countries due to the funding freeze. This unprecedented move affects approximately 1.6 million people who relied on NRC's assistance. Humanitarian organizations are urging the US government to reconsider its position. The United Nations has appealed for $6 billion to address the escalating crisis in Sudan, emphasizing that delays in funding will result in catastrophic loss of lives. The situation in Sudan is a stark reminder of the profound impact policy decisions have on vulnerable populations. As the international community watches, the question remains, will action be taken before it's too late? Israel and Hamas agree on new exchange. The Middle East is no stranger to uneasy truces. And now we have another one on our hands. Israel and Hamas have reached a deal. The bodies of 4 Israeli hostages in exchange for over 600 Palestinian prisoners. Don't be mistaken. This is not a peace agreement, not even a step towards one. It is a cold, calculated trade that speaks volumes about the fragile ceasefire anchored by threat. Hamas will hand over the remains of 4 Israeli hostages to Egyptian officials before they are transferred to Israel. In return, Israel will begin releasing Palestinian detainees, many of whom were arrested in the early days of the war. This exchange is part of a broader ceasefire agreement brokered by the United States, Egypt, and Qatar, a deal that has kept full-scale fighting at bay since January 19th, but not only just. To put it bluntly, this is not a diplomatic breakthrough. It is damage control. A conflict that has already claimed thousands of lives is now being managed through temporary measures. Does this deal indicate progress? Or is it simply a pause before the next explosion of violence? Let's make no mistake. This isn't just about the 4 bodies being returned or the hundreds of prisoners being freed. It is about leverage. Hamas has long used hostages as bargaining chips. And every exchange reinforces the message that its tactics work. Israel, on the other hand, is working on a tightrope, wanting to bring its people home, while ensuring it does not embolden Hamas further. This isn't the first high-stakes exchange in this war. Israel had previously delayed the release of prisoners, accusing Hamas of turning past swaps into political spectacle. Palestinian detainees returning home to celebrations hailed as heroes. This is the imagery that fuels further tension. Meanwhile, Hamas still holds an unknown number of Israeli hostages, both alive and dead. The fate remains uncertain. Their use in future negotiations inevitable. For Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, this exchange is a tightrope act. He knows that hostages are politically sensitive. Any sign of weakness could cost him support at home, but public pressure remains. The families of the hostages are demanding action. The Israeli military is stretched thin, and a prolonged war without clear gains could turn political allies into adversaries. Netanyahu has been clear about one thing: there will be no long-term peace as long as Hamas exists. His government still maintains that ground operation in Rafah, the last Hamas stronghold in Gaza, is inevitable. But can Israel justify another military offensive while it is still negotiating hostage releases? And if an attack is launched, does this fragile ceasefire collapse entirely? Right now, international mediators are scrambling to keep the ceasefire from unraveling. The US, Egypt, and Qatar have invested months into these negotiations, trying to prevent a full-scale escalation. But the reality is, this deal does not bring peace. It only buys time. This playbook is nothing new. We've seen it before: hostage swaps, temporary treaties, international interventions, and then another explosion of violence. The cycle repeats, casualties rise, and long-term solutions remain elusive. So what happens next? Would this deal lead to something more concrete, or is it just another pause before the next inevitable war? The world is watching. But the people caught in the crossfire already know the answer. Trump says US will sell $5 million gold card to wealthy foreigners. So what's this deal? Under this plan, foreign millionaires and billionaires can pay $5 million upfront to secure a gold card visa, which grant them the same benefits as a green card, but with a direct path to US citizenship. This isn't an expansion of the existing EB-5 investor visa. It is a replacement. The EB-5 required investors to create at least 10 jobs in the US to qualify. The gold card, no job creation, no strings attached, just a hefty bank transfer. And here is the kicker. Trump says this could raise trillions of dollars and even wipe out the US national debt. 1 million applicants, that's $5 trillion in revenue. Now let's talk about the people who might be interested in this golden ticket. When asked if Russian oligarchs will be eligible, Trump's response: yeah, possibly. And then some Russian oligarchs. There's an actual quote, and it's raising eyebrows. Critics are already calling this a welcome mat for the war's elite. a legal loophole that allows shady billionaires, corrupt officials, and foreign power players to buy legitimacy in the United States. Think about it. While regular immigrants go through years of background checks, interviews, and legal ordeals, the ultra-rich just paid a weird hand. Trump is selling this as a win-win. America gets money, the rich gets residency, and the economy benefits. But what does this mean for American values? Immigration has always been a highly debated issue in the US, with calls for tighter borders, merit-based entry, and national security concerns. Now we are putting a price tag on it. Let's not forget, Trump built his first presidency on tough immigration policies, promising to keep out illegal immigrants and those he deemed a burden to the economy. But now, if you've got the cash, the door is wide open. The Gold Card program is expected to roll out within weeks. The Trump administration believes this is a game changer, a fast, lucrative way to bring in revenue. But with security concerns mounting and critics questioning the ethics of selling US residency, this policy is likely to face some serious legal and political challenges. One thing is clear and certain. US immigration just got a new price tag. And in Trump's America, if you have the money, you make the rules. Scientists at the Wuhan Institute of Virology have discovered a new lineage of coronavirus in bats, one that can enter human cells in a way similar to SARS-CoV-2, the virus that caused the COVID-19 pandemic. Sound familiar? It should. This new virus, called BTCOV22, has been found to use the same SE2 receptor that SARS-CoV-2 used to infect human cells. That is the same pathway that allowed COVID-19 to spread across the globe. But before anyone jumps to conclusion, here is what the expert says. There is no evidence of human infections yet. Scientists insist that, at this moment, there is no reason for alarm. But let's take a step back. We've read this before. Remember how COVID-19 started? Initial reports brushed it off as an outbreak in a seafood market. Then came the claims about natural origins, followed by a global pandemic that shut down economies, took millions of lives, and changed the world forever. And now, scientists in Wuhan, yes, Wuhan again, have found yet another coronavirus in bats that can potentially infect humans. So, what are the odds that this virus jumps to humans? Right now, it's unclear. The scientific community is saying this is just a discovery, not an outbreak. But history has shown us that such discoveries often come with real-world consequences. The SARS outbreak in 2003 originated from bats. MERS in 2012, bats. COVID-19, likely from bats. The pattern is undeniable. And there is another big question. Why do these viruses keep coming from China? The Wuhan lab insists that this is simply scientific research meant to monitor and understand potential threats. But skepticism remains. The world is still recovering from a pandemic that many believe was linked to this very institute. Trust in institutions is at an all-time low, and the stakes could not be higher. For now, there is no outbreak, no reported cases, and no immediate danger. But let's be honest. How many times have we heard there is no need to panic, only for the situation to spiral out of control? The truth is, the world cannot afford to be caught off guard. Not again. Vigilance is key, because if there is one thing we've learned, it is this. These warnings are never just theoretical. Six babies die of hypothermia in Gaza. 6 newborns have died of hypothermia in Gaza since Sunday. Not from airstrikes, not from shelling, they died because it was too cold, and there was nothing to keep them warm. Doctors in Gaza are now warning that more infants will die if urgent aid does not reach the enclave. The healthcare system has collapsed. Hospitals have no electricity, and incubators are just metal boxes without power. Parents are wrapping their babies in layers of cloth, using body heat to keep them alive, but in freezing temperatures, that is not enough. Hope does not guarantee or generate warmth. Gaza's hospitals are overcrowded and under-equipped. Fuel shortages mean generators cannot run for long, and incubators, the life-saving machines for premature and sick babies, are lying useless. With medical supplies running out and food shortages worsening, the most vulnerable, newborns, the elderly, and the sick are dying not from war, but from sheer neglect. Winter has turned into another weapon. In a place where homes have been destroyed, people are living in makeshift tents, braving the cold without blankets, heaters, or proper clothing. More than 2 million people are trapped in Gaza, and humanitarian groups say the aid entering the strip is nowhere near enough. Doctors Without Borders and the WHO have repeatedly called for unrestricted humanitarian access, but aid remains blocked, rationed, or delayed. The response from the international community: statement, warnings, condemnations, but no real action. Government expressed concern while border crossings remain choked. Air trucks wait on the other side, but approval takes time. Time the newborns in prison hospitals rooms do not have. This is not just a humanitarian crisis. This is a death sentence for the most vulnerable. 6 babies have already died. How many more before the world stops watching and starts acting? Once again, the news headlines. Parliament threatens legal action against Babangida. People will starve because of US aid cut to Sudan. Israel and Hamas agree on new exchange. Trump says US will sell $5 million gold card to wealthy foreigners. Scientists have identified a new coronavirus in bats, but it's not a public health threat. 6 babies die of hypothermia in Gaza. Thanks for staying tuned. Once again, I am MARYAM OlugboDE.